In a world full of noise, control, and endless grasping, we all carry something we should have released long ago. But what if peace doesn't come when everything is fixed? What if it comes when we finally let go? As the Buddha once said, "You only lose what you cling to." This isn't just a quote, it's a way of living. Letting go is not weakness, it is wisdom in motion. It's not about giving up, but about releasing what no longer serves us. Today, take a deep breath, slow down, tune in, because the moment you let go is the moment you come home to your peace, your clarity, your true self. Let go and let peace begin. 1. Let go of control, because control is an illusion. Many of us live with the deep belief that if we can just control everything around us, our relationships, our future, how others perceive us, then we will finally feel safe, respected, and at peace. We plan obsessively, try to fix people, stress over outcomes, and hold tightly to routines. But no matter how hard we try, life refuses to obey our script. In Buddhism, there is a core teaching called anicca, impermanence. It means that everything in life is constantly changing. People grow and change, circumstances shift, emotions come and go, seasons, relationships, even our own beliefs evolve. Nothing stays the same. So when we try to control what is naturally meant to change, we create suffering. We experience two levels of pain. First, the fear and anxiety of constantly trying to keep things in place, and second, the heartbreak and disappointment when things fall apart anyway, because they will. Letting go of control doesn't mean you stop caring. It doesn't mean you stop making plans or being responsible. It simply means you stop clinging. You stop believing that peace can only come when life bends to your will. Instead of resisting the flow of life, you begin to flow with it. Like water in a river, you move with grace, with awareness, without force. You learn to adapt rather than grip. You find strength not in tightness, but in your ability to stay calm through uncertainty. True strength is not about forcing outcomes. It is about trusting the present moment. It is about meeting life as it is, not how you wish it to be. The moment you stop trying to control everything is the moment you discover a deeper kind of power, the power of peace, acceptance, and clarity. Letting go is not failure, it's wisdom. It's the soft courage to release what's outside your control and focus on what you can truly influence, your own thoughts, reactions, and choices. In that shift, real peace begins. 3. Let go of attachment, because what you own owns you. Attachment is one of the greatest sources of human suffering. We attach ourselves to people, outcomes, identities, and possessions. We believe that holding tightly to these things will bring us happiness, security, or a sense of purpose. But in truth, attachment is a trap disguised as comfort. In Buddhism, attachment is called tanha, craving or clinging. It arises when we try to hold on to things that are, by nature, impermanent. A relationship, no matter how loving, will change. A job, no matter how secure, may end. Even our bodies, status, and abilities will eventually shift. The more tightly we grip, the more pain we feel when things inevitably change. We begin to fear loss, resist growth, and feel anxious about the future. This creates suffering, not because things are changing, but because we expected them to stay the same. Letting go of attachment does not mean we stop caring. It means we begin to care differently, with openness, not possession. We learn to love without needing to own, to enjoy without needing to cling, to give without expecting anything in return. It's the difference between holding a bird gently in your hands and locking it in a cage. When you allow life, people, and experiences to be free, you give them space to breathe and yourself space to find peace. Attachment is often based in fear, the fear of being alone, of not being enough, of losing what we think gives us value. But when we examine these fears, we realize that our peace cannot come from anything outside us. It must come from within. The Buddha taught that freedom begins when we stop tying our happiness to things we cannot control, when we stop saying, "I need this to be okay," and start saying, "I am okay, no matter what comes or goes," because in truth, what you own, if you cling too tightly, ends up owning you. You become a prisoner of your desires, expectations, and fears. But the one who lets go becomes free, free to love without fear, free to walk through life with an open heart and a steady mind, free to experience deep, lasting peace, not because of what they have, but because of what they've released. Let go, and you'll realize you were never missing anything. You were just holding on too tightly to what you were meant to set free. 4. Let go of the past, because it's already gone. The past can be a quiet prison. We carry memories like heavy stones, regrets over what we did, shame over what we failed to do, sadness over what we lost. Our minds often replay these old moments, hoping to find closure or to rewrite the ending. But no matter how many times we revisit the past, we can't change it. What's done is done. In Buddhism, one of the most powerful teachings is mindfulness. Living in the present moment with full awareness and acceptance. That's because the present is the only moment that's truly alive. The past is a memory. The future is a dream. The only place we can breathe, act, and find peace is now. But when we cling to the past, we become blind to the beauty of the present. We walk through life looking backward, carrying guilt, bitterness, and pain from events that no longer exist. It's like dragging a bag of broken glass behind us, hoping one day it will make us whole. Letting go of the past doesn't mean pretending it never happened. It doesn't mean ignoring your pain or forgetting important lessons. It means you choose not to let it define you anymore. It means you stop feeding energy to memories that steal your peace and power. You cannot heal what happened by obsessing over it. Healing begins when you stop trying to relive the moment and start asking, "What am I doing with this moment now?" The Buddha taught that suffering comes not from what happened, but from our attachment to what happened. It's not the memory itself that hurts us. It's our unwillingness to let it pass. Forgiveness is a part of this. Forgiveness doesn't mean agreeing with what someone did. It means freeing yourself from the chain that keeps you tied to that pain. Whether it's someone else's mistake or your own, you forgive so you can be free. When you stop carrying the weight of the past, something beautiful happens. You become lighter. You begin to see life more clearly. You make space inside yourself for new joy, deeper peace, and real freedom. Some people stay stuck in their old story for years, but you are not your past. You are not what happened to you. You are what you choose to become now. Let go of the old chapters. Let the pain breathe. Let the grief flow. And then, gently, let it go. Because the past is already gone. But your peace, your future, your present moment, that is still in your hands. 5. Let go of ego. Because it separates you from everything. The ego is the invisible mask we wear, the story we tell ourselves about who we are and what makes us important. It whispers things like, "I am better than them. I can't be wrong. I must win. I need them to see how powerful I am." At first glance, ego looks like confidence. It looks like ambition, pride, and self-respect. But look deeper and you'll see the truth. Ego is fear in disguise, fear of being overlooked, fear of being unimportant, fear of losing control. In Buddhism, the concept of anatta, or non-self, teaches us that there is no permanent, solid self. Who you are is not a fixed identity. You are not your name, your job, your body, or your opinions. You are not even your thoughts. You are the awareness beneath it all, the presence watching the experience unfold. But the ego tries to protect a false identity. It builds walls between us and others. It says, "This is me and that is you." It separates. It competes. It constantly compares. It clings to the need to be seen, to be right, to be superior. And in doing so, it isolates you, not only from others, but from your own peace. Think about it. How many arguments were created not by truth, but by ego needing to win? How many relationships were destroyed, not by lack of love, but by someone refusing to say, "I was wrong"? How often do we feel angry, hurt, or offended simply because our ego got bruised? The ego is obsessed with image. It wants others to see you as powerful, wise, successful, untouchable. But this image is not you. It's a costume, a fragile shell that must constantly be defended and maintained. And the moment someone questions it or doesn't treat you the way you expect, the ego feels attacked. Letting go of ego doesn't mean you have no identity. It means you no longer need to cling to one. You no longer define yourself by status, labels, possessions, or being right. You realize that your value is not based on how people see you, but on your own internal truth. The ego says, "If I win, I am worthy." The deeper self says, "I am already whole. I need nothing to prove that." When you let go of ego, humility replaces pride, understanding replaces judgment, stillness replaces chaos. You become open, able to listen, learn, admit fault, grow. You become soft, but not weak, rooted, but not rigid, and most importantly, you reconnect with life, with others, with the deep peace within yourself. The Buddha never said, "Become more important." He said, "Better than 1,000 hollow words is one word that brings peace." Ego fills us with noise, always speaking, always justifying, always needing attention. But the wise person learns to be quiet, not because they have nothing to say, but because they no longer need to prove anything. The one who lets go of ego becomes like water, calm, clear, reflective, able to adapt, to heal, to nourish. They don't need to fight the river, they flow with it. They don't need to shout their worth, they embody it. In letting go of ego, you return to your natural state, peaceful, connected, whole. You no longer seek approval, dominance, or status. You seek truth, and in that search, you find yourself, not the false self you built to be accepted, but the real self that was always there, quietly waiting beneath the noise. So drop the mask, drop the need to win, to be right, to be admired, breathe, and let go, because in the absence of ego, true peace is found. Would you like me to continue with Lesson 5 in the same detailed format? 6. Let go of expectations because they create suffering. Expectations are the invisible chains we place on life. They are silent agreements we make with the world, most of the time without telling anyone. We expect people to behave a certain way. We expect events to unfold according to our plans. We expect our kindness to be returned, our efforts to be appreciated, and our love to be reciprocated. But when these expectations go unmet, and they often do, we feel betrayed, frustrated, even heartbroken. Buddhism teaches that one of the main roots of suffering is attachment to desire, and expectation is simply another form of desire. It is the mind saying, "Things must go this way for me to be okay," and that must becomes a trap. Imagine walking into a room and expecting everyone to greet you warmly. You've built a mental picture, but what happens when they don't? Suddenly you feel rejected, not because anyone was cruel, but because reality didn't match your imagined outcome. Your peace was not disturbed by the people, it was disturbed by the expectation you placed on them. The Buddha taught the power of non-attachment, not just to material things, but to thoughts, beliefs, and outcomes. When we expect the world to move according to our script, we create tension. We're constantly measuring what is against what we thought should be, and every time there's a gap, suffering enters. Letting go of expectations does not mean you stop dreaming, hoping, or planning. It means you engage with life fully, while releasing your tight grip on how it must unfold. It's the ability to act with intention and then surrender the result. It's the wisdom of saying, I will give my best effort, but I do not control the outcome. One of the greatest sources of disappointment in relationships comes from unspoken expectations. We expect our friends to understand us without needing to explain. We expect our partner to know what we need without asking. We expect people to show up in the same way we do. And when they don't, we assume they don't care. But the truth is, they're living from their own perspective, not ours. Peace in relationships comes not from trying to mold others, but from learning to see them as they are. When you let go of trying to change people or fit them into your ideals, you create space for real connection, one based on acceptance, not performance. The same applies to life's events. We expect success to come quickly. We expect our plans to be smooth. We expect life to be fair. But life has its own flow. It doesn't follow human timelines or logic. Sometimes what looks like a delay is protection. What feels like rejection is redirection. What seems like a failure is simply part of the unfolding. When you're chained to expectations, you miss the beauty of what's actually happening. You spend so much time comparing life to your internal blueprint that you forget to experience the moment in front of you. Letting go of expectations is not giving up. It's waking up. It's stepping into the present with open hands, not clenched fists. It's moving from this must happen to let me see what happens. It's transforming control into curiosity. The lotus does not demand the sun rise at a certain time. It blooms when it's ready. The river does not demand the rocks to move. It flows around them. Likewise, when we stop demanding that life meet our expectations, we begin to meet life. When something doesn't go as expected, ask yourself, what is this moment trying to teach me? Maybe it's patience. Maybe it's surrender. Maybe it's resilience. Every broken expectation holds within it an invitation to grow, to release, to trust. And let's not forget expectations of ourselves. We often carry unrealistic standards. I must always be strong. I should be further along. I can't fail. These self-imposed rules become heavy burdens. Letting go of them means honoring your humanity. It means allowing yourself to rest, to make mistakes, to evolve at your own pace. The Buddha said, "You can only lose what you cling to." When you let go of expectations, you lose nothing essential. You only lose the suffering created by insisting the world conform to your script. And in return, you gain peace, openness, freedom. So breathe. Trust life a little more. Let go of how it should be, and make space to appreciate how it is. Because often the peace we seek isn't found in getting everything we expected. It's found in learning to love what we didn't expect at all. 7. Let go of the need to be understood, because truth needs no defense. One of the quiet struggles that most people experience but rarely talk about is the deep desire to be understood, to be seen for who we truly are, to have our intentions recognized, to be heard without being judged. This need for validation often begins in childhood and follows us into adulthood, shaping the way we speak, think, and even act. We explain ourselves. We defend our actions. We try to correct misunderstandings. We want people to know our heart. But here is the truth Buddhism gently teaches. The need to be understood by everyone is a form of attachment. And like all attachments, it leads to suffering. Not everyone will understand you. Not everyone will appreciate your silence, your growth, your boundaries, your truth. And that is okay. The Buddha taught that equanimity a state of calmness and balance, is one of the highest qualities we can develop. Equanimity means being steady in the face of both praise and blame. It means your inner peace doesn't rise or fall based on how others see you. You begin to live not from reaction, but from clarity. The problem with constantly seeking to be understood is that it ties your peace to something external, another person's perception, and no matter how clearly you explain yourself, no matter how kind or sincere you are, some people will still misunderstand you, not because you failed, but because they are listening through the lens of their own beliefs, fears, wounds, and expectations. Trying to force someone to see your heart is like yelling into a storm, hoping it will stop raining. It drains your energy and leaves you frustrated. The truth is, not everyone is meant to understand your path because they haven't walked it. Not everyone can feel your depth because they haven't lived your pain. And not everyone can hold your vision because they haven't seen what you've seen. Letting go of the need to be understood is not about becoming cold or disconnected. It's about freeing yourself from the emotional trap of over-explaining, over-defending, and overthinking. It's about honoring your truth so deeply that you no longer need others to confirm it. You start to realize, my truth doesn't need to be broadcast. It just needs to be lived. My peace doesn't come from their agreement. It comes from my own alignment. My worth is not dependent on being seen. It is inherent. This kind of quiet self-trust is powerful. It's the strength of a monk who walks alone but walks in peace. It's the calm of a person who knows their intentions are pure, even if others question them. It's the freedom of a soul that no longer needs approval to breathe freely. There's a beautiful Buddhist metaphor: be like the tree that stands still as the wind moves through it. The wind represents opinions, judgments, misunderstandings. The tree is your grounded self. It feels the wind, but it does not bend with every gust. It remains rooted in its truth. When someone misunderstands you, take a breath. Ask yourself, is it worth explaining, or is it better to be at peace? Sometimes silence is more powerful than any argument. Not because you're weak, but because you've matured beyond needing to convince. There will be moments in life when the most loving thing you can do for yourself is to stay quiet. Not out of avoidance, but out of wisdom. You've realized that defending yourself to someone who doesn't want to understand you is like planting seeds in barren soil. This applies in relationships, family, even work. Sometimes you'll be judged for choosing peace over drama. Sometimes you'll be labeled cold for setting boundaries. Sometimes your inner transformation will be met with suspicion rather than support. But if you know your heart is clean, let that be enough. The Buddha said silence is sometimes the best answer, because silence is not empty, it's full of understanding, power, and restraint. It's the response of someone who knows that truth stands firm, even when it's questioned. Over time, you'll notice something beautiful. The more you release the need to be understood, the more at ease you become. You start doing things not to impress, but because they feel right. You speak less, but your words carry more weight. You stop chasing approval and start attracting peace. Letting go of the need to be understood doesn't mean you isolate yourself. It means you finally come home to yourself. You no longer wait for others to reflect your worth back to you. You become your own mirror, and in that quiet space where explanation fades and truth remains, you find something priceless. Freedom. You'll still be misunderstood. You'll still be judged. But none of it will shake you, because when you've let go of needing to be understood, you've already found something better. Inner clarity that doesn't need to shout. There is a quiet struggle happening inside many of us, a battle between the way life is and the way we think it should be. This battle is called resistance. We resist our emotions. We resist the difficult moments. We resist what we can't control, can't predict, and can't understand. We carry around the idea that life must fit our plan. And when it doesn't, we push back. We fight reality with our thoughts, our complaints, our frustration. But in Buddhism, we are taught that suffering is not in the experience itself. It's in our resistance that suffering begins. Pain is a natural part of life, but suffering is a choice. The moment you think, this shouldn't be happening, you've stepped out of the present. You're no longer flowing with life, you're fighting it. And no one ever wins a battle against the present moment. Imagine a river flowing downstream. If you jump in and try to swim upstream, pushing against the current, you'll wear yourself out, struggle, and eventually get pulled under. But if you relax and float, trusting the flow, the water carries you with ease. Life is like that river, always moving, always changing. And your peace depends on your ability to flow with it, not control it. Resistance can take many forms. It shows up when you hold on to old pain and won't let go. It shows up when you're afraid of change, even though change is part of life. It shows up when you judge your emotions as wrong and try to push them away. It shows up when you deny what's happening because it feels uncomfortable. But here's the truth. The more you resist an emotion, the stronger it becomes. The more you avoid discomfort, the more it lingers. The harder you try to control life, the more out of control it feels. Buddhism teaches us the power of radical acceptance, meeting each moment just as it is, without judgment, without resistance. This doesn't mean giving up or ignoring injustice. It means no longer fighting what has already happened. It means starting from where you are, with open eyes and an open heart. If you're feeling angry, accept that the anger is there. If you're feeling sad, allow yourself to feel that sadness fully. If life feels messy, stop pretending it should be perfect or tidy. Acceptance isn't weakness, it's a sign of true strength. It takes real courage to face your feelings, to see things as they are, and to stop running from them. When you resist what's happening, you create stress. But when you accept it, you create space. You begin to say, this is happening, and I can face it with calm. This is hard, and I can breathe through it. This isn't what I wanted, but maybe it's what I need. Letting go of resistance doesn't mean you like everything that happens. It means you understand that fighting what is only adds to your suffering. Yelling at a storm doesn't make it stop. The storm passes when you stop wishing for sunshine and instead take shelter in your awareness. The Buddha said, just as a solid rock is not shaken by the wind, so the wise are not moved by praise or blame. That kind of calm strength comes from surrender, not giving up, but giving in to the truth of what is. It means letting go of the inner battle, the voice that says, this shouldn't be, and replacing it with, this is. When you stop resisting, you come back to your breath, your body, and the quiet beneath the noise. You stop expecting life to be fair, and instead you begin to treat every moment as a lesson, because it is. That heartbreak, it's teaching you to be gentle. That failure, it's teaching you humility. That silence, it's teaching you how to listen. Every challenge carries a lesson, but you can't receive the lesson if you're too busy resisting it. Surrender doesn't mean giving up. It means fully showing up. It means being awake and aware in your own experience. It's choosing to respond with care instead of reacting out of fear. It's choosing growth over holding on, peace over control. Think for a moment, how much energy have you spent resisting life, resisting change, endings, uncertainty, or the pressure to be perfect? Now imagine using that same energy to pause, to breathe, to soften your grip. What if, instead of asking, why is this happening to me, you asked, what is this moment asking me to let go of? Letting go of resistance is like loosening a tight knot in your chest. The moment you stop pulling, the knot begins to loosen. You feel lighter, not because the outside world changed, but because you did. The mind wants to be in control. The ego wants comfort. But the soul wants truth. And truth only comes when you create room for it to enter. Every time you resist, you're saying, I know better than life. But every time you surrender, you're saying, I trust the wisdom in how this moment is unfolding, and it's in that trust where deep peace begins to grow. So today, take a breath and lean into whatever feels uncomfortable. Let this moment be exactly as it is. Notice your resistance, and then slowly, softly, let it go. You don't have to struggle so much. You don't have to hold the weight of things you cannot change. The storm will pass, the river will carry you forward, and peace will find you. Not when everything is perfect, but when you stop holding on so tightly. Letting go isn't something you do just once. It's a quiet, sacred choice you make again and again, a gentle return to peace, moment by moment. You release control, not because you're giving up, but because you've learned that life flows more easily when you stop pushing against it. You release attachment, not because you don't care, but because love is about freedom, not ownership. You release the past, not to erase it, but to free yourself from what no longer serves you. You release ego, not to lose who you are, but to reconnect with the deeper truth of who you've always been. You release expectations, not to settle for less, but to open your eyes to what's really here, right now. And you release the need to be understood, not to cut yourself off, but because you've learned to trust your truth quietly, without needing approval. You let go of resistance, not because you're giving up, but so you can finally breathe and allow peace to meet you where it's always been, here, now, within. The world might still try to pull you back into chaos, but remember, you were never meant to control the wind. You were meant to learn how to be still, how to let go, and how to trust that the sky will clear on its own. Letting go isn't the end. It's the beginning of clarity, of kindness, and of a peace that nothing can shake. So wherever you are right now, and whatever you're still holding on to, take a slow, deep breath and ask yourself with honesty, is it time to let this go? Because when you do, you won't fall, you'll rise.